Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. Allincrypto here, and today we are going to be talking about the Internet of Things and Deepin, and we are going to be looking at a project that is building on top of Polkadot to enable and facilitate the Internet of Things and, of course, Deepin applications. This is one to not miss, as the Internet of Things in regards to a market is set to grow to $3.3 trillion by 2030. There's going to be some massive opportunities that are going to come out of this. And actually, blockchain is essentially what is going to enable the Internet of Things. So what is the Internet of Things? Very, very quickly. Well, right now we are communicating over the Internet of communication, the Internet of us. We are communicating with one another, one human being to another. Well, the Internet of Things is essentially the Internet of machines, where machines connect and interoperate with one another. And this is what I believe the real metaverse is. The real metaverse, in my opinion, isn't a game. A game is a game. The real metaverse is actually real world, but a digital version of it. Essentially a copy of it that's digital, and everything is going to be tracked, traced, interoperate with one another. You know, you see these kind of sci-fi-esque films where somebody wakes up and the blinds open, the coffee machine gets put on, you know, the radio starts, the toaster turns itself on, or the oven, or whatever it may be. You know, this is the kind of future that we're moving towards, and the Internet of Things is essentially what's going to enable this. And the likes of Peaq Network, which is the Polkadot project that we're going to be talking about, are actually enabling this to take place. And this is huge. This is a golden opportunity. We have previously made videos where we spoke about actually Deepin being the biggest opportunity that there potentially is with crypto right now. You know, in the same way that Bitcoin sought to decentralize money, decentralize a store of value, and offer an alternative to the corrupt fiat systems, we now live in a world where you essentially have these techno overlords, these kind of technocrats, or these kind of techno feudalists that essentially own the infrastructure of the internet. And actually, what blockchain is doing, in the same way that it looked to decentralize money, is it's actually looking to decentralize the infrastructure of the internet. And actually, when we do move towards the Internet of Things, it's going to be of the utmost importance that we have decentralized systems actually enabling this, like Peaq Network. So that's what we're going to be looking at in this video. To start things off, I actually want to go over to a news article from Yahoo Finance. Now, this is a kind of recent article. It came out in February the 7th, 2024, and the title is Global Internet of Things, IoT market size to be worth $3.2 trillion by 2033. It goes on to say the global Internet of Things market size was valued at a US dollar value of $347 billion in 2023, and the worldwide Internet of Things market size is expected to reach a US dollar value of $3.2 trillion by 2033, according to a research report published by Spherical Institution and Consulting. The global Internet of Things IoT market size is to grow from right now $347 billion in 2023 to a US dollar valuation of $3.2 trillion in 2033 at a compound annual growth rate of 25.1% during the projected period. And you can see this is the kind of graph that they attach to it. I've looked at a number of different articles and they're all in line in regards to this growing to a multi-trillion dollar industry. And we're really going to see that acceleration. And we are seeing an acceleration with devices coming online in regards to this new kind of internet. And the concept behind this is it's like the internet, but instead of for people, for machines. And they'll be able to interoperate and, you know, derive all this kind of new data from it. And this is going to be the kind of new world that we move towards. You're going to have things like smart cities. Basically, this is what the metaverse is. It's a digital representation of real life. And actually, Peaq Network published this rather interesting blueprint for a Deepin utopia, which aka means the metaverse. And you can see you have within just the sort of layout of a city all these different Deepin applications that there's likely going to be a blockchain element in. You know, Wi-Fi networks, you can think of something like Helium. You've got street mappers, you can think about something like a Hive Mapper or whatever it may be. You know, you've got ride sharing, you've got car sharing, you've got a health tracker in your wearable device. You've got air quality trackers for this sort of stuff, drone delivery. So, you know, this is the world that we're moving towards, guys. And actually, Peaq Network is essentially looking to facilitate this. So what is Peaq Network? Well, Peaq Network is basically a layer one that's built on top of Polkadot, or that utilizes Polkadot's underlying infrastructure to essentially enable people to build DePIN and DApp applications, so dApps, for mobility, connectivity, energy, and more. Anything DePIN, anything IoT, Peaq is essentially enabling people to do. You know, it's kind of tailor specific. You can see that the Peaq token, which actually hasn't launched yet, is supposed to be the lifeblood of the economy of things. The Peaq token is the native utility token of the Peaq Network and ecosystem. It is the lifeblood of the economy of things. And right now, you actually can't get your hands on this token. You can see some of the partnerships that Peaq Network have so far include the likes of Bosch, Airbus, NTT, Continental, Fraunhofer, Denso, DLR, and Gaia X, which is pretty interesting. And there are a number of applications that are already being built on top of Peaq Network. You can see they have 20 DePIN projects building on top of Peaq already. The tokenized machine real-world assets that they currently have is to the tune of $25 million. Still very small, but going to get exponentially bigger. And they already have over 100,000 machines, vehicles, robots, and devices. Let's take a look at one of the things that Peaq Network are actually doing, which of course is machine tokenization. And you can see they actually have here a tokenized Tesla. To start things off, this is a Tesla Model 3. They also have even the likes of tokenized charging stations. Remember, these are all machines. They've got tokenized wind turbines. You know, this is the kind of world that we're moving towards. So this is a very interesting project that's tackling a massive market. And we ultimately think that it's going to do well. This is one of the most interesting, you know, Polkadot has this insanely rich ecosystem. And actually, this is one of the projects that's building and utilizing Polkadot that we're probably most interested in, along with the likes of Origin Trails. You know, this is absolutely huge because this is the future. This is the world that we are moving towards. Now, I found a pretty good tweet from a guy called Simon Dedick, who is the CEO and partner of Moonrock Capital. Now, Moonrock Capital, and he does disclose this in this tweet, I believe their largest investment is in Peaq Network. So there may be a bit of a bias in regards to this, but he clearly says this himself. But this was a great tweet. Covers Peaq Network in a lot more detail. Remember, the token isn't yet out for this. I personally am going to be investing in Peaq Network. Just because I think the Internet of Things is such an amazing opportunity. Peaq, the layer one that no one is talking about yet, but everyone will use. TLDR, Peaq Network is building a layer one for DePINs, creating a home for real-world machines and applications to run decentralized and on-chain right at the intersection of Web3 and AI. Disclaimer, Peaq Network is Moonrock Capital's biggest investment ever. So you can imagine we are pretty bullish on what they are building. So let's dive right into it. Obviously, DePIN, Decentralized Physical Infrastructure Network, is quite a big topic lately. The Peaq team has seen this coming, hence working on their solutions for several years already, many years before DePIN was coined. But why should we actually care about DePINs? Because of the same reason we care about Web3 decentralization. Remember, we've used that analogy of the application for a distributed ledger doesn't just stop at Bitcoin. And this is why Bitcoin Max is dumb, you know, and we are unapologetically saying that. Living in an era of digitalization and AI, not only is the supply of machines growing exponentially, but they do become more intelligent and hence more powerful from day to day too. And on the current trajectory, all of these powerful machines will eventually end up in control of just a bunch of big tech giants, just like what we see now with the internet. Very simply said, many machines sucking a lot of value from the end user, sometimes even taking their jobs, and the few big guys on the top are the only ones benefiting from it. So as always, a few big winners and a lot of big time losers. Guess which side you are a part of, but Web3 and DePIN are here to change that. With DePINs, we are removing the middleman for all solutions that have something to do with the real world machines. Take Helium as an example. Helium, by the way, has been around for a long time. I think 2013, 2015, one of the two. I know that's a 2-year gap, but this has been worked on for a hell of a long time. that is removing the telecom giants and giving back control of this network to users. Or Hivemapper, incentivizing drivers to collect imagery to map the world and to dethrone Google Maps. And now think of Peaq as a home for all of these DePINs, which comes with a lot of advantages. If we have a look at the tech, Peaq offers everything needed in terms of fundamentals to serve millions of machines running on chain, like high throughput and scalability, super cheap transaction fees, EVM and Solana compatibility, and much more. The numbers that Peaq shows publicly are conservative. They will likely be much, much more impressive. Remember, they're going to be able to buy more than one parachain or core with the upgrade that's coming to Polkadot 2.0. However, a question I receive quite often from other investors: why am I so excited about Peaq as a DePIN layer when Solana is trying to position themselves similarly? Eventually, it comes down to focus. Yeah, so you can't be a jack of all trades. Peaq is all about DePIN, from the tooling to the DeFi mechanics and network effects they will create on Peaq. This focus leads to advantages that our generalist approach can't keep up with. They already have a lot of these brought to life, like self-sovereign multi-chain machine IDs, machine NFTs, machine real-world assets, AI agents, Peaq Access, etc., and many more ideas in the pipelines. I won't go into all of these in detail, but I want to emphasize how important this is. Imagine you're building a DePIN project. Running a startup is tough, and you anyways have more work to do than you can realistically handle. Always, I believe that was supposed to say. If there would be an ecosystem that comes with all the necessary tooling, patterns, customers, collaborators, community users that you can just leverage in a plug and play way for cheaper, faster, and more efficient solutions, that would be pretty exciting, right? Network effects. So this is making founders and developers live much easier and more convenient, as long as the tech is still solid enough to do what it is supposed to do. The tooling and ecosystem all of a sudden becomes much more meaningful. You can see this is what they are essentially throwing up. On top of that, Peaq is going to come with a machine DeFi ecosystem, which is a completely new way to market and offer another big advance for DePIN projects and users. Imagine tokenizing your Tesla and earning a passive income on it. This is the future we're moving towards, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. The Peaq team has loads of ideas on how to make this easy and one day these standards for everyone. Or starting a new DePIN project, you'll have quite some problems raising and distributing your specialized hardware. Tokenizing it would help you kickstart this process. The possibilities are endless, and believe me, the Peaq team is very creative and innovative here. You can see this is their machine DeFi use cases. Some of the ecosystem, network effects, tooling, and DeFi mechanisms combined are bringing a lot of DePIN projects and users to the ecosystem. There are so many lined up. I have FOMO myself, and this is where the flywheel starts to kick in. You can see this is the next image that this individual shares. To sum it up, being into DePIN and not caring about Peaq will soon be like being into DeFi and not caring about Ethereum. It's imminent, but let's have a look at their traction. The numbers speak for themselves. Already 20 plus DePIN projects committed to Peaq, many, many more lined up and being built. They are scaling like crazy to keep up with demand. The DePIN builders are already valued at more than 500 million. Let that sink in. Incredible real world partnerships, for example, with industry giants like Bosch Global that will build specialized DePIN hardware, Amazon Web3 partnership, and integrations with the top players like Fetch AI and Wormhole Crypto. Hundreds of thousands of machines are already in the pipelines to go live with their mainnet. Imagine how much on-chain usage that will bring once mainnet is live, and compare that with other blockchains out there. In terms of usage, I wouldn't be surprised if Peaq Network will be in the top 10 blockchains at launch and top 5 by 2025. Big claims here. And something I find super cool, Peaq won't be subject to the same bull and bear market focus that Layer 1s experience, since their on-chain activity and value creation is all tied to real-world service goods. Yes and no with that question, by the way. They will get affected. You can have on-chain activity going through the roof whilst the token price is going down. This is the magic of markets. So all of that has been accomplished by a stellar team of 25 people plus. I know most of the team in person by now, and I can tell you I haven't come across many teams that are dedicated, professional, and ambitiously striving for their vision. Hence, the current accomplishments and traction aren't surprising, especially in the real world. You should be super bullish and wondering how to get involved and what the alpha is. Most of their community does so by using Crest, their canary network that will be eligible for an airdrop. That's true, but there is a better way. Start using the DPINs building on Peaq, then you will automatically be responsible for on-chain usage. And a little birdie told me that this is going to be one of the main criteria to be eligible for a crazy airdrop campaign. I'd recommend using Silico Network and NATIX network, both very easy to get started with, as all you need is a smartphone. You'll need an invite code, so feel free to use mine. He drops his invite codes there. To sum it up, my thesis is pretty simple. I'm incredibly bullish on DPINs for real-world adoption of Web3 and betting on an ecosystem that is not only making DPINs more effective and easier to build, but also pooling them all in one network. All in one place for network effects seems like an incredible no-brainer to me, which is a winner, which is a winning take in all situations. The team is very capable, working on this for nearly 6 years by now, and their work finally comes to fruition and is heating up. As I mentioned before, I expect them to be a top 10 to 5 blockchain project this cycle. To be even more specific and bold with my predictions, unicorn status for me seems pretty much set in stone already. Unicorn status soon doesn't seem unrealistic if AI and DPIN keep up with their momentum. They can show solid traction and market sentiment stays as bullish as it is. As always, appreciate you reading this. So I actually thought this was a really, really good tweet, hence us sharing it with you. And it does make us truly bullish on Peaq. Now, we, again, think the real metaverse isn't a game, you know, it's certainly not Decentraland. It's real life where you essentially have this veil, essentially, of the Internet of Things and a kind of digital representation of the real world. That's the real metaverse. And things like Peaq are essentially going to enable that by connecting the Internet of Things and kind of being able to map things out on more of a detailed and decentralized way than what you see in the current Web2 ecosystem. So that's really what we've got for you in this video, guys. We are extremely bullish on Peaq. We're going to be dropping a lot more content as it relates to Peaq. Of course, we are on a bit of a Polkadot crusade at the moment. We think Polkadot has one of the most rich ecosystems in the world. It offers everything, and this is just another perfect example of what Polkadot and its ecosystem has to offer. Very bullish on Peaq, guys. That's all I've got for you. If you've enjoyed the content, like us, appreciate it, as a comment, and I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks a lot for watching. See you in the next.